your feet under the kitchen table. You begin to talk about and malign everybody that you just saw in the church. That's not the heart of a true servant. That's not the heart of one who has been called to serve on behalf of Christ. So I want to let the orderlies know, make sure you live a godly life while you're seen and not seen. Make sure you live a life according to the dictates of God's word. See, some of us make choices based on outside conditions. Some of us make choices on who we're going to be with by the way that they look. She looks good. She got every feature that you like. The brothers are looking and everybody's panting. But even though she may be fine as a figure eight, does she have the heart to be married to you? He may be strapping, tall, dark, handsome, broad shouldered. Salt, pepper, gray hair. He may have everything you think, but is he the one to work and stay with you? What looks good to you ain't necessarily good for you. I got that in for free. Elam was tall. He had the look. He had the muscles. He had the shape. He had everything going on, but he did not have the heart of a servant. See, God is looking to bless those who don't necessarily have to look the part. You see, nobody knows your journey like God knows your journey. Maybe the lines in your face, maybe the marks in your hair, maybe the posture of your body is due to the fact that God has brought you from hell and back and put you in a position of survival so that you can tell somebody else about the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Don't judge me or how I look, but judge me by way of the goodness of God in my life. The Bible says that Jesse had another son. Verse 8, Abinadab. Verse 9, Shammah. Verse 10, Jesse had 7 sons come and parade in front of Samuel. The Lord had not chosen any of these. All of these were connected to the right source, but they did not have what God was looking for. Now the fact of the matter is, the prophet should not have had to ask this question. Are these all your sons? Because, beloved, I've learned that sometimes distance from others causes a distraction from the divine. Let me explain what I mean. That sometimes when there is a gap between you being where others are and your association to others in high and lofty places, just because you're at the bottom of the hill, just because you're still trying to make it up the rough side of the mountain, just because you're still on the back side of the mountain, does not mean that God does not see you where you are. God knows how to find you. So don't let distance become a distraction when it comes to the divine, because God is saying, no matter where you are or what you've done, if I choose you for service. There was a movie I remember called Home Alone, where there was a young boy named Kevin who was sent to the attic because his parents were upset with him. The alarm rang the next morning. The family got up to go to the airport, but they left Kevin home alone because distance had distracted them from knowing where their son was. And although Kevin was home alone, the family forgot all about him. He hadn't been home alone long when the place was starting to get robbed. But sometimes, beloved, I've learned this, that sometimes God puts some distance between you and other people in order to prepare you for what's about to happen right where you are. If Kevin hadn't been old, the house would have been robbed. But because they left Kevin, who was smart, intelligent, crafty little rascal, he was able to save his house until his parents got back home. So just because God has brought you from the backside of a mountain, just because you've been down the bottom of the hill, just because you've been disassociated and disconnected from your certain people in the right place, I know a God who can use you right where you are. God has you at the right place, at the right time, and you don't even know it. Because God has selected you, it don't matter. Y'all got to get this. Here's another reason why God deals in selection and not election. It's called the last first principle. The last first principle. Look at verse 11. Samuel said, send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives. Every son previously had to parade in front of Samuel, and God did not choose any of them. But instead of dismissing the delegation of the doubtful, God detained them right where they were, gathered all the other sons, and said, we gonna wait till the shepherd boy comes, because he must be the chosen of God. God help me, you may feel like you've been left out with nothing but sheep, grazing by yourself, being a shepherd, dirty, stinky, out on the backside of the mountain. But God says, I have incorporated the last first principle, meaning that all of those that have marched and lined up before you have got to do an about face and wait on you. When they turn their backs against you, marching toward what they thought was theirs, God says, do an about face and wait for the one who's been designed and chosen for this season and this office. I know the three that are about to be ordained never, ever, never thought that they could possibly be deacons. But God knew who to choose. God knew who he needed. There are those who would say, I would say, that we shouldn't be ordaining no women. Putting the females up on a man's position and more. And I'm sorry if you feel that way. I'm sorry if you feel trapped or insecure in your manhood. I don't know what the issue is. I'm sorry if you got problems with who God chose. But you got to do an about face and wait on who God called as the feet come forward to be ordained. You see, God does things in his own way and in his own time with his own people. Who are we to choose between men and women? The last time I checked the word, God says he neither sees male nor female. God only looks at the heart and what you're willing to do. And brothers, if we tell the truth about it, the women outnumber us anyway. So you might as well get on board and you ain't gonna have no church at all. I want to help somebody understand this text. I'm almost finished. You can understand this. That's something in the text. Notice verse 12, C clause. Then the Lord said, rise and anoint him. He is the one. Now, what happened? When the Bible said in verse 11, we shall stand and wait